Hi there, Maureen here for Detail Church with our next installment in our reading music series. And as I promised in my previous one, this one is on handbell music. Now, handbells are a whole different beast of an instrument. It's much more confusing in order to play, but not necessarily in the basics of reading it. So I'm going to walk you through two songs. We're going to discuss a couple of the differences in how they do things along the way. So let's get started. The first song I'm going to start you with is a song we were actually supposed to play on Easter Sunday. Well, this song is called Ring the Easter Bells with Gladness, and if it were done, we would have done it with organ and we would have done it with the choir. So you'll see the very first thing at the top of the page is a very large measure. Now this is nothing to play. This is simply a marking that tells us what bells we need for this song. Personally, it's great for me because as I assign who is going to play what handbells, I'm able to look to see what we need and plan in advance. For my handbell players, this is great because they can see what notes they need in advance, and we're able to pull these handbells out for each of our rehearsals because these little pictures actually help us a lot. If you look at the music itself, you'll see that it looks an awful lot like piano music. Here we have a brace at the beginning telling us to play both lines at the same time. We have a treble and a bass clef. Here we have a key signature of 1 flat, which is the key of F. Here we have a time signature. It is 3/4 time. And each measure is conveniently marked with a number so that rehearsals can be a little bit easier, or if someone gets lost, you can yell out a number. Ask them. I do a lot of counting and a lot of yelling. So normally on a Wednesday night, I'm very tired. So if I was going to be playing this on the piano and going, this looks like piano music, I would instantly get to measure 3 and I would know that no, it's not piano music. This particular chord is an interval of a 12th. Now I have some pretty big hands, and so did Rachmaninoff, but I don't even think he could have hit this chord because first of all, you need 6 fingers to hit it. Second of all, I'm not sure he could reach from an F to the C, not above that, but the C above that C. It is a very large interval, so this is not possible to play with one hand or on the piano. You could roll it, and that would be the only way to get it done. So that's a really good indicator that this is handbell music. Now, as I mentioned, it's a little bit different to be a handbell player. It makes perfect sense to look at this music and understand the notes and the rhythms. But handbell players are assigned specific notes or bells, and they only ring when they happen. So let's use this middle C in our bass clef as an example. I would ring here, ring, ring, but there's no middle C here. That means I don't ring on beat 3. Ring, 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 ring. There's none here. I don't ring. So every time you see a note doesn't mean it's your note to play. Many times people who have played other instruments will go, oh, sure, I'll help you out. I'll come and play bells. Well, they're very used to seeing their part of the music with all of the notes and all of the pitches, and they're all theirs. Now you need to learn to skip over some of them. You have to read them, but you don't play them. And that can be the trickiest part. And to make that a little bit easier for them, I go through all of their music in advance, and I highlight the notes that they need to play in a color-coded fashion so that they are able to easily just go, oh, that's middle C. I'm going to ring it there, and I'll do the entire piece. As we go through it, you're going to see that there's a couple different symbols that are just for handbells. And there's actually one to start right at the beginning. SK with this squiggle line. It's everyone's favorite symbol in handbells, and it means to shake. It means we're going to hold the bell and we're going to shake it forwards and backwards. And it's going to literally just shake the bell, and it makes a fun sound. It's one of our favorite things to do because anytime the handbell group does it together, it makes a very exciting moment. Now, if I scroll through the rest of this, you would see that this song changes key often, which is fine. They did very well with that. But the rest of the markings are very similar. So I'm going to jump to a different song. This is from the Christmas cantata that we did back in December of 2019. So again, up at the top, we have this graphic that tells us all of the bells that we need. This particular one needed 34 bells. So it looks just like it did on the previous one. We have the brace telling us to play both lines. We have our 2 clefs. Here's our key signature. It's E flat. And we have 4/4 time. Again, this song also gave us numbers above our measures, which came in handy as we were running larger rehearsals. So one of my favorite symbols is, just because it's funny and it makes me think of food, is this circle that we have to start. It's got a little arrow on it, and this is called the gyro. So what we're going to do when we see this is we are going to ring the bell, and then we're going to spin it. So if I had a bell in my hand, I'll use my left hand, I would ring, and then I would turn it. And I would spin it. It makes an interesting sound because it changes the direction that the bell is facing, so that the sound changes direction. Typically when we ring a bell, we ring, the sound goes up, therefore you hear it. Now we are not letting it just go up, it's going all around. So it makes more of an interesting sound. Let me show you another symbol that we have here. And that is here in measure 13. We have an LV. Now this symbol means to let vibrate. Typically when we are playing in handbells, if you are not playing the next note, you would ring and then dampen the bell on your shoulder, because if you're playing a C chord and the next note is a D, you don't want the notes from your C chord with the D. It sounds really yucky. So if you want to experience that, go push a whole bunch of keys on your piano at the same time. That's what it sounds like if you don't dampen your handbells. So you'll see in 13, we've got the let vibrate. So instead of dampening, we would just ring. We would let it keep going until the bell either stops making a sound or we see this symbol. If you look down in measure 20, there's an R right here under the ah tempo. That means that we're going to start ringing like normal. So that means we just go back to ringing and dampening each of our notes as they would. So when we scroll ahead a little bit, here in measure 56, you'll see a PL, and each of our notes has a staccato marking underneath. You'll see it for 3 measures. This was a very playful part in the song. So as we get to those are called plucks. So what you do is with one hand, you're going to hold the handbell down. As you hold the handbell down with one hand, you're going to use the hand of the other hand to pick up the clapper and then throw it into the bottom of the bell. It's very hard, and it's hard to do them quickly because you have to jump from bell to bell. It's a 2-hand activity. The bell cannot roll. It cannot fall into a crack. If it's upside down, it doesn't make the right sound. So this one's actually really, really tricky. We did not do this in the cantata, but not because it was too hard. We didn't do it because it didn't make enough sound. Whenever we do the pluck, because you throw it into the table, it's a very quiet sound. So instead of us doing it that way, we ended up doing thumb damps, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, because they made more sound compared to with us, the orchestra, and the choir. If we had done the standard pluck, you never would have known they were doing it, and that would have made that effort kind of pointless. So you'll see right after we did that, we went back to ringing in 59. And then we've got the staccatos again in 60 and the first note in 61. This is telling us that we had to remember we just did these plucks and we need to do them again. They probably should have marked them just in case you had a more newer player who wasn't used to remembering to do it, but I'm pretty sure every single member wrote pluck here because we needed to remember to do it. So as we scroll through the rest of the song, you'll see that things kind of return to normal. We've got normal notes, we're ringing normal, life is great, we got a couple different time signatures that happen, and then we get to the end of the page. Here, it doesn't say PL, it says TD. And you'll see that we have 3 staccato notes with an accent on top. That's what this greater than or less than symbol is. And we have it again in measure 40. So this marking was a little bit interesting. So in order to do a thumb damp, you're going to use your handbell. So you would hold it as normal, but you're going to put your thumb on the back of the bell. So if you pretend that my cup is the handbell, I would place my thumb on the brass. That's why we wear gloves. That way we don't tarnish and we don't ruin the bells with our hand oils. So if we have our gloves on, we put our thumb right on the back of that, and it shortens the sound. It makes it like a pluck. But because we are still ringing it upward, it is a louder sound. Therefore, your thumb damp can act like a pluck, and it works kind of evenly. That is what we used earlier in the song so that you could hear what we were doing instead of doing the table plucks. Now, if you look at that real carefully, that symbol wants us to not only do the thumb damp, but they want us to ring one very specific note like normal. So take a look at that. We've got thumb damp on 1, 2, 3. We have an R on beat 4, and then we're back to the thumb damps. So it was very tricky. We had to remember that as we were going through, we wanted to go thumb, 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 take it off, but you had to ring, and then thumb, 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 thumb. They did such a great job, and I'm so proud of what they did, because that's not easy to do. You either had to take it off or go down, and depending the size of the bell that you were playing, some of them were a little bit more challenging than others. Well, I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit about handbell music. If you've ever been interested in learning more about handbells, we meet on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock in the sanctuary. We'll be getting back together probably in September, unless I'm told by the CDC that I'm not allowed to. I promise you that if you're looking for a group that is fun, warm, and welcoming, the handbell choir is quite the place to be. And sometimes I swear we do more laughing than we do rehearsing. So if you ever would like to join us, just let me know and we'll have a part ready for you and you can give it a shot. Well, thank you for joining me. Hopefully this answered some of your questions about music, and if you had any handbell questions. If there is something you would like to learn or something that you may have a question about, feel free to ask. You can always send me an email at mkonopka@dutailumc.org, and I would be happy to either answer you directly or make a video because maybe somebody else has the same question as you. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again next time. Have a great rest of your day.